this is how we're going to end practice. And they're like, you can just see it, and you just kind of give them that smile, and they usually come through for you. But just trying to find some different ways with it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like
So quarterback Jen is on. I'm telling you, I love it. So what if we? I'm going to try to jump to Sherwood this time, and we'll try to start and just sort of rotate the leader position, because I think everybody is so good that I don't want to put everybody in such a position that everybody's answered the question for them. So in that particular topic, we had so many cool things. We had under technical discipline, we had make sure the intervals allow the skill to develop. The correct intervals, the consistency of the practices, the set of high standards, but no compromise on those standards. Amazing stuff. Tell the children what to do, not what not to do all the time. Don't always dwell on that. Give everyone extra attention. Make sure everybody knows that they're in the room today. Make sure they feel special today. Kick, drill, kick, swim. Make sure that there's you always adding in that kick and that drill, and then you can build into the swim. Do drills and do practices well under fatigue. Do those drills when they're tired, not just when they're fresh. Anybody can do them when they're fresh. Feedback and accountability, the awareness of their body in the water, the awareness of what they're doing in the water and how they manage their space in the water. And then coach is the quarterback of your group, of your kids in front of you. Deliver them, feed them, connect with them. Make sure that you're constantly on the prowl for that. For helping them take the next step. Be flexible as an age group coach. Meet them where they are, and add drills in all over practice. So another great one, guys. Thank you very much. And I don't know how much better we get than these two first questions as leadoffs. That time we started with Coach Sherwood, right? So this time we'll start with Coach Megan. Okay, and Coach Megan, this one is when do you sort of start to incorporate race strategy work, and how race strategy fits into this total scheme of your practices and developing that piece of the athlete?
Yeah, my race strategy. Helping the kids step into that conversation of race strategy for me always starts with a full send. If you are willing to get out there and throw yourself down the mountain, then I think then we open up conversations for creativity about how I throw myself down the mountain. So some races feel like moguls, right? And some races feel like I'm going to jump off a cliff at the end. But getting out of the gate full send and not I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. And some kids will say, well, I'm gonna hold 31s. I'm like, you can control that? That's amazing. I don't know anyone that can control, like, I'm gonna go 31-3 as an 11-year-old, or you're trying to go as fast as you can for the context of the race. But I think finding as fast as you can is really important, and allowing that to come out like I'm gonna race. And so having opportunities in practice where maybe it's not 100 where I'm going to get a time, but maybe it's a 63 and get there as soon as you can, or it's 42 seconds, go. Or kind of teeing them up with, like, I know that you can try hard and go full send for 13 seconds. Let's just go full send for 13 seconds. Doesn't matter how you look. Doesn't matter how far you get. Don't worry about it. Practice full send. And then I think once they have that, you can open up the conversation for what creativity looks like. So I learned that when I go full send, my legs tend to hurt at the whatever mark, okay, great. So what can we do? How do we work on that? Well, it seems to happen at practice too. Oh, does it? So, then we have conversations about how we're going to put something together. But I think it starts with a full send and that willingness to just get out there and get down the mountain.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And Coach Jen?
Teaching race strategy is pretty funny. I have to go way back. And one of the first times that I ever did I don't know where the clinic was for ASCA. And Guy asked me to speak on race strategy. I felt like I was being set up to take a final. that I had not really prepared for. Like, whoa, I didn't take that class. And I really, over the years, I think I found that that's been a weakness for me, is really how to attack race strategy with age groupers. And I think what I mean, as far as a weakness for me, I don't think early on I had them going fast enough. You know what I mean? Where I was building that in those opportunities into workouts. I loved the technical side. I loved training all 4 strokes. You know, I loved having them race, but I don't think I used it as enough as a learning experience. So that was something that I really think I had to work on. I've gotten a lot better over the years as far as working with goal setting with them. And Megan brought up a good point about how they want to go all out. It's almost like you can't kill their dream, but you have to learn how to guide it and develop it with them. And, you know, how we're going to break, you know, races down. That's kind of how I see it in using more of it in practice. Like I said, that's been a real challenge for me. And like I said, I think a weakness that I think I've gotten much better at, doing goal sets, test sets during the season that you repeat maybe monthly, or whatever ones that you pick, or where you put them in the season. Everybody has a different approach with that, but teaching them as an age grouper how test sets really are feedback in preparation for racing. So I was a little all over, sorry.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Jen. And Coach Kathy?
Okay. I mean, I think once kids start swimming the races, it's important for them to start thinking about how they're going to swim the races. If you throw, and I'm all about getting after stuff, but if you throw a young swimmer into their first mile and they go out as fast as they can and hurt really bad, they may never want to do that race again, or the 200 fly or whatever. So I think we have to be a little bit careful. And so I think that they should start to learn about race strategies as soon as they're starting to swim the races. And I know that I guess I'm kind of correlating this a little bit. I know that I was asked to speak at ASCA about how do you teach swimmers to swim the 400 IM, the 200 IM, the 200 free, and the 500 free or 400 long course. And so I think about what we do in practice, and a lot of the sets that I do, I try and develop around where I see common mistakes made in meets, and try and teach them to improve upon those in the sets. So for example, for a long time when I was coaching 11 and 12, the very first race of our championship meet was always the 200 free. And the kids would be so pumped and so excited. And they would get up on the blocks, and their first 25, they wouldn't breathe, and they would kick their legs off, and then they died like a champ, right? So in practice, I started, the week of the meet, we started doing a dress rehearsal on the first 25, where they still were supposed to go out fast, but they needed to get right into their breathing pattern, and they needed to learn how to build their kick. So it wasn't just like, I still want them fast, but I want them smart fast, right? Another area is, there's a lot of, and every swimmer's different. So when you're talking about strategy, you need to see what they do and don't do and try and coach them differently. So what I might tell one swimmer is going to be potentially different than what I'm going to tell somebody else. But I think that, there's a lot of people that swim the fly super fast in an IM and then they totally back off on the backstroke. Or when they're swimming freestyle on the IM, I tell them they need to go after it right at the beginning, because too many people, like in a 400 IM, they'll go 50 moderate, 50 fast, and they have way too much left on the end. So I try and incorporate sets that'll work on those things in practice so that they get the idea and hear it more and more from me. And one of the comments I guess I didn't say and probably should have said on the number one was that I think that it's important to teach your age groupers to embrace the IM and all strokes, not just what they maybe love the most. So that's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Coach Sherwood?
Yeah, I like all your answers better than mine. It's good stuff I'm learning here. I think that I'm going to teach I coached 9 and 10s, 11 and 12s for a long time. I'm even going to teach 9 and 10s how to descend and things like that. So I agree with Kathy that set design is really, really important. And I'm going to teach the kids in practice what I want them to do at a swim meet. Right now, as an example, I've got an 11-year-old boy. He was 5900 free at 10. What, you know, there aren't too many 10-year-olds that break a minute. And 26. He's pretty athletic, pretty physically strong guy. He knows how to go, but he doesn't know how to swim that middle speed or that middle to strong speed. All right, so last week he went 25, a couple weeks ago, 25 and 58. And he went 210, 200 free. So I'm going. So I get to teach him, you know, obviously the pacing and the descent, but to actually get him to go that speed in practice is really, really important. So that's sort of that, I guess I'm going to come from sort of that middle to strong speed. He doesn't train, it either goes or it's slow. So, like Kathy said, I'm going to design sets, and I have other kids like that, maybe not quite that quick, but the same idea. So descending, you know, what does that mean? You know, what speed is that first 50? And it's like in a 200, and you build and you go faster on the second and then the third, and your legs come in more and more. And what does that mean exactly? Or how to negative split or whatever. I love the IM. So we do a lot of IM. Everybody does. And the 500 free. So that's our focus, has always been my focus, and everything either goes up or down from there. So that's where we're at, and good stuff.
That's great. Thank you, Sherwood. So here's what I have on race strategy. I have Megan, finding a place that's as fast as you can go, and practicing that and rehearsing that, and learning what you can learn from what happens to your body when you're practicing that, when you're rehearsing that. What do you learn about that when do you have a high heart rate? Do your legs fail? What do you feel in there? And then they learn a little bit about pacing. And I love that exploratory learning. That's pretty cool. Finding a place that they can go as fast as they can and be under control at some point. Coach Jen, teach them how to break races down, you know, and help them learn how to break races down, whether it be through goal or test sets, occasional goal or test sets. I think that was shared. Coach Kathy, race strategy as soon as they start to swim the races. So as soon as they begin to swim the races, we're going to start teaching the race strategy for those races, and it's going to be a part of our program. And example, you know, we've all seen kids who take off and they go hard and they don't breathe the first 25, and I noticed we all were laughing because we've all lived through this, and that's not just 11 to 14-year-olds. That's college kids too. Big kids and little kids alike make these mistakes, right? And so I'm listening to this conversation and I'm thinking, this is really nothing to do with 11 to 14. This just has to do with swimming. It could be the Caleb Dressels of the world. These are the same things that the world's best athletes are doing. And Kathy mentioned the dress rehearsal on the first 25, learning how to control things, in particular the legs. And then don't be afraid to individualize some strategy. Coach Sherwood's teaching them how to descend and progress through sets and progress through swims, and teach them what strong speed means to them. What is your strong speed that you can sort of maintain that steady speed that's for a long time, and then obviously making sure that we teach to the 500 free and the IM at this age group, so that, because we really don't know exactly where that young athlete's going to end up at the end of the day. We want to make sure that we've opened the doors for them and give them the opportunity to take the next step down the road, right? And so amazing stuff from these incredible coaches. So we'll go on to the next one, which is
Hey, Bill.
Yes, ma'am.
May I interrupt for 1 second? Can I add one thing to what, as far as race strategy, and just because Kathy's on here, when I was on the deck with her at MAC, you know, I hadn't worked with, I was working with 13 to 14-year-olds as my second group there, and I hadn't really had the experience of working with or coaching swimmers to swim over the 500, swim the mile, swim the 1,000, swim the 800. And I tell you, between her and Patty, they made distance freestyle so exciting. And, you know, one of the big things was this, they just, even for me, showed me how to break the race down differently, you know, and it made me more excited. And then it made me more excited as far as in teaching. But, you know, just a good example as far as like the 1650, you know, breaking it down instead of, you know, a lot of people go, you know, the 3 500s, you know, go on the 550 and the 1100 and then the 1650. I mean, just different ways to give the kids, to get them excited to see things. And so I just have to give that shout out that I was very fortunate to be on deck with Kathy like that for several years and really be able to be the student with my own students. And just I couldn't let that opportunity go to add that. So sorry to interrupt, but just needed to.
No, that's not interrupting. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share or add further that, you know, as you've heard other things?
I just want to chime in with what Jennifer said. I think the mile or the 1,000 or whatever distance is for that kid, I think when it's approached with this creativity, like we could do all sorts of things. Yes, there's 3 550s. There's also a bunch of 150s, and then there's points on the, when you see 23, reevaluate. You know, I think one way to get the kids into some longer swimming, even if maybe that's not the direction they're ultimately going to go, but teaching decision making and making a move in your race, which you can then apply to the shorter stuff if that's what you're going to do. I think that's great race development, strategy development, because creativity is the name of the game there, and being aware of places, gaps that you can shoot through. Where's the gap? You know, what can I do to make a move here? And distance swimming is really cool for that.
It is fun to break down sets for athletes where you can just do a whole bunch of different things, and then each day they really don't know what to expect. You're doing, especially if you've got a full season. This year may be a little different. I'm sort of curious to know what people are doing this year, because when we're socially distanced, and you know, there's two things I've noticed with young people. It's too funny. I go into this 9 and 10-year-old practice, and I'm like, this doesn't seem normal. It's not loud. It's not crazy, you know. And it's because it's quieter today because the kids are spread out. They're not all hanging on each other on the wall, right? And it's a quieter room. Maybe the kids are actually able to learn at a better. We might have learned that this might be a better way to spread them out in that lane. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to see if coaches do some of that occasionally now in the future. But I did notice that. And then the other thing that I noticed is that obviously it's harder to swim longer distances straight when you're trying to keep them socially distanced, right? It's a lot more difficult, and you got to be really creative as a coach to come up with some unique ideas to get some endurance work done over time, you know, without letting the kids run on top of each other because of safety reasons with COVID, you know. And so any thoughts on that? Since I brought it up, we might as well talk about it. You know, somebody's, I'm sure, thinking about it.
Well, I'm going to jump in because I don't know. I've really given this a lot of thought. Really since this you asked us last week. Everybody's been really negative about 2020. Believe it or not, I think it's re-energized my belief in coaching. It's, you know, we really had to take that step back. We're out of the water, and for, you know, in our instance, they literally found out less than 24 hours before their JO, their end of the season meet. Wow. So here, you know, I'm in 1 hour speaking about when to arrive, you know, last minutes about, you know, warm up, you know, when you're going to put your suit on. It's all these little final things to 2 hours later, we're telling them the meet's canceled. It's no go. Go to practice that day. Now we're out of the water for the next 2 months. And, you know, through those 2 months time, you know, your only touch of, like Sherwood's saying and Kathy's saying, but we have to get back on it. We get on Zoom. We all discover Zoom with them. And you are literally their grounding point every day. And every day, I just know them getting them up in the morning to meet, to do dry land or whenever. And at first, how quiet they were. And then that connection. And then connecting with some of them, just, you know, one-on-one. I like it. I'm now reaching to the point, we've been back in the water since late May, and we started with one in a lane, and you're running, you guys know, the 3 workouts to get 1 workout done. And that was pretty tough, and pretty tough in the heat outside, as most of you experienced. But now into the fall, and we are 3 people in a lane, in a 6-lane pool. We're out of the Hall of Fame. We're out of the high school pool where we trained all last year. So we're kind of on our 3rd scenario. You know, I've fallen in love with my group. I've fallen in love with where they are as far as their mindset. It's like it seems like I cherish my time so much more with them. And it could be the group that I have. I have a very, very diligent group, a little bit on the young side. But I just feel like the way I'm reaching them, I really am enjoying it a lot. And I think it's because it's allowed me to slow down and not feel guilt. You know what I mean? That I'm not worried about, I think maybe I'm resigned to that. I have to meet it where it is and take it step at a time. And you know what I mean? And I just see the appreciation on their end of it. I don't know. I'm just in a really good place with it right now. And I'm loving it.
That's awesome.
To tack on to that, if it's okay, I think that we've seen, if you had asked us this time last year, if the kids were going to be out of the water for 2 or 3 months, would they be able to come back and go faster? And I think a lot of us would have probably said no. And I'm pretty old school, so I fall right into that category. And kids have gone fast. And I've got to wonder if some of that rest that they did get wasn't really needed. And I know I was talking to Megan about this yesterday, about one of the swimmers that I work with. He's been a different person since the shutdown. I think it allowed him to grow. I think he got a little bit stronger